Everyone is talking about football, and I'm just trying to figure out how to program iOS.
Oh. Nate puts the hammer down. All
This
right.
is untrue. He's playing Pop It. Don't let him fool you right now. I looked at my dad is not programming.
He's analyzing it to figure out the logic.
Excuse me, it's Bubble Shooter.
Bubble Shooter, sorry.
Bubble Shooter. Oh, man.
My bad.
They should call it Bubble Shooter for that.
Bullshit.
So I'm just copying this out to.
When we played the card game, should I remember?
Love that one. It's one of my favorites.
I taught my kids that. We just don't call it that.
Yeah, we don't call the game bullshit. We call bullpucky. My son just rolls.
All right. Anyway, to satisfy Nate's desire to continue on, get our money's worth out of this. So let's. This is all we're going to do with the first view controller. On the second view controller, so if I go to the storyboard, this guy, I'm going to delete these two labels like I did with the first one. Just get rid of them. So this one we're going to utilize our friend Mr. UI Color again like we've done in the past. But first we need to plop a picker control on there. I'm going to slide out the object library, and we want to go down. Instead of a date picker this time, we're just going to pick a regular picker view. That's the guy we're going to use. Pop him on there. All right. Bless you. So with the picker control, it's a little different than the date picker. It doesn't automatically populate with stuff. I mean, it kind of shows different cities in California, but it doesn't actually populate with anything. So what I'm going to do first off is we're going to create a variable for it in our second view controller. So make sure you have the code for the second view controller up, and then I'm going to do a control drag over there, and PV for picker view color, connect him. All right. So we have a variable for our picker. We should probably go through the arduous process of centering it. Control drag, center horizontally. And then I'm going to do the control drag and set a vertical constraint as well. Not an outlet, a vertical constraint. Vertical spacing to bottom layout guide, and I'll set that to be like 150 maybe. Kind of center it somewhat. Okay.
You said there was a horizontal on that one at the top?
Yeah, you just do like we've been doing, where you control drag straight down and then select center horizontally. That's the most important one, is to get it horizontally centered. Okay, now the picker view is, like I mentioned, is different from the date picker, because in the date picker, Apple went ahead and wired up all the different events and properties and set everything internally so that you don't have to do it. But with the picker view, it just gives you the basic functions and stuff that you can call, but you have to wire up the actual wiring between the storyboard and the source file to let it know that you are handling the view controller that it's embedded inside is handling all the events that it's going to fire off. So the way we do that is, there's a few ways of doing that. One is with your object panel open over here. If you go to the outlet inspector, this is probably the easiest way to do this. Up at the top, you see there in the outlet section, there is if you have the picker control selected, there's a data source and a delegate properties up there, and then little circles next to them. The little circles, like we have them down here where we have like our variable defined, We can also do that with the data source and the delegate, which tells the picker control who its source of data is. So if I click on that little, turns into a plus sign and drag this guy over, and if I take it all the way over to the scene picker here, and you hold it over the second view controller, you notice that it highlights, and if you drop it, that actually wires up an outlet for it. And it disappears because now my picker control is not selected. But now if I go back, select my picker control over here, you notice it's got this relationship set up, this outlet. So that is telling the date picker, okay, second view controller, you're my source of data. And then the other thing is the delegate. I'm going to do the same thing with it. Drag it over to the second view controller in the scene there and drop it. And now those should both be wired up. Yep, so you should see something like that. Data source and delegate both wired up. If I wanted to delete these guys, I could just click on the X's and that would delete them. But that's what we're looking for, is to have the view controller as the, and it should say over here on the right side, because you could actually, I think you could set up the, I'm going to delete this one. I think you can actually inadvertently set up the view, yeah, which is not good. So if you accidentally drag too far, you can end up setting the view as a data source for the picker control, which totally breaks the model set forth by Apple and causes death and destruction. So we're just going to go with the way they want you to do it and set it up to the view controller. Okay, so those guys are wired up. I am going to dismiss this guy. Go back to our source file. Why they don't do this for you automatically, I don't know, but they don't add in the code to set up the second view controller as the delegate automatically when you create that wiring. So we have to do it. So we need to set our second view controller as a UIPickerView delegate, and also a UIPickerView data source. And you instantly get an error when you do that because we haven't implemented the methods that we need to. If you click on the error, it says second view controller does not conform to protocol UIPickerView data source. If you're working in the Microsoft world, it'll have a little, go ahead and implement these. You double click on that, puts a bunch of code in there. Apple doesn't do that. So we have to go ahead and figure out what it needs. And the easiest way to do that is just to, in the source file, just start typing picker. Because now that we are a picker view delegate, it'll give you these methods. First one we want to implement actually doesn't start with picker view. It's just the number of components in picker view. And that is referring to the number of columns, vertical columns in picker view. And we're going to just have one for this implementation. And then we're going to get fancy on the last. We're going to create another tab eventually. And on that last tab, we're going to have our slot machine. All right, so in this guy, we have...
Hold on. If you go down far enough, you can find it.
Yep, it's way at the bottom. So that's the number of components, or like I say, columns. I'm going to need to implement some other stuff. Another one that we need to do is number of rows in component. And that will satisfy the compiler that we have the necessary number of methods. For right now, I'm just going to say 0 because we don't have anything coded up yet to put in there. But for right now, that's all we need to put in there. One more that we will need eventually. Yes, Nate.
For that function, is it going to be a CG float or a int?
It returns an int.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I found it. For the second picker view.
This guy, the number of components.
One above. I
Oh.
think I got it.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Yeah, you can always just look at the arrow and see what type of data type it's returning.
Okay.
So it'll tell you there.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we have number of components, number of rows. So another thing we need to code is going to be, in this case, the text that appears in here is done through a method called title for row. And I'll explain these here in a second. Getting feedback from the microphone. Let's see, title for row. So for right now, this is a string value. I'm just going to code in an empty string. All right, so what's kind of weird about this, if you're looking at it, you're wondering like what's going on. What it does is these guys are all what's called callback functions. So when you load up the view, the picker view is going to say, okay, UI view controller, you're my delegate, you're my data source, where's my data? And then it makes these calls that are defined here that, that the view controller returns what it's looking for. So picker view says, view controller, how many rows am I going to have? And the view controller says, oh, you got none, I'm returning 0. And they'll say, okay, how many components? And they'll say 1 component. And then it'll ask for title for row, which you'll never get in here because it said there's 0 rows. So it'll never come into the title for row. But if we did have something other than 0 here, it would come into this method the number of times that there are rows in the picker. I should qualify that. The number of visible rows in the picker. So whatever is visible on the screen, it's going to come in here that many times and ask for the title. All right. All right, so the next thing we need to do is create some data for it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to revisit the colors so we can create a color picker. So up here underneath the class declaration, I'm going to create an array like we did before. And in here we can have our friends, the colors, except I want that capitalized, red, green. We'll go with a few here, blue, yellow. Appropriate to have purple and yellow together. Orange. And then what else we got? Let's go with gray. Black is kind of boring. Although gray is too. All right, so now that we have these guys defined, down here where we have the number of rows and component, we can say, instead of returning 0, we can say colors.count. Count. There we go. Number of components is still 1, but down here in the title for row, where we're telling it what text to display, we can say colors with array bracket, and it's passing in this variable here called row, which represents the number of the row. So we can just use that to pick the index out of our colors that we want. All right, and that should actually be enough to get this thing off the ground. So we'll see if I'm a liar or not.
You just go back down to the bottom. Oh, bro. Down the street?
Just an entertaining bunch tonight. Oh, nice. I'm wondering if I forgot something that might have to be. I don't think so. I think this will still work.
How do we get to this point?
Yeah, we just tap on the second. Yep. Okay, so that worked. Yep. So there are our colors. I like that sound it makes. All right. So everyone got the names of the colors showing up.
Let you know.
Oh,
Yeah, mine's doing something funky. It's only got 1 line, it doesn't have both, so I gotta make another constraint probably.
Oh, it might be. Yeah, you'll have to, bummer. Yeah, you have to probably do a height constraint and a width constraint, probably. You could try just doing a height and see if that's enough. But lots of times if you set one and not the other, it gets all wonky, so. Which is?
It's just, it doesn't have anything in it, it's just like those two.
Oh, just two lines? Did you modify your number of rows to be the number of colors?
Which one is that in?
Number of rows in component. Okay. So, did that fix your,
Not just putting on my height,
Fine, right?
what did it do?
didn't do anything.
May have to set the width as well.
Alright, working on it.
I can't spell yellow. Oh, no. I spelled it like mellow yellow.
Like what?
Mellow yellow,
Oh,
no W.
something funky going on with this microphone.
Nope, it didn't do anything.
Still didn't do anything? So you see text, but you don't
I
see.
see the
She
whole
sees text
row
and
there,
she's
there's
got
just
one
one
line.
line instead of the two lines, so I don't really, I mean, you can tell which one it's picking because it's brighter than the other one.
Let me see if I can, let me see what it looks like.
Just the line is underneath instead of on top and underneath.
Versus.
Yeah. One thing we can try, I don't know if it's gonna matter, there is a way you can set the row height on it. Let's see here.
Yeah, so,
Okay, there's this delegate method, row height for component. So you can try setting that guy to be, let's say 50. So that's the height of the row that you're on.
okay.
That's a float though, so I think it's gotta be 50.0 or whatever.
Did we create another function?
Only-
Yeah, this is mostly for Kristen's benefit. We'll see if it works. If you're seeing it okay with, you can, if everything, yeah, that definitely made it larger.
Yeah, it made it higher, but it didn't add another line, and actually, did yours have a second line here too? My front screen is the same way, so I just didn't notice.
Oh. It could just be something with the simulator. It's almost gotta be, because it's,
Okay, well, I'm gonna delete the, well.
yeah, we don't have to have that method in there. That was kind of extraneous. But just to see it does work, but that was not the issue. All right, let's see, next thing we want to do is something other than just spin the wheel. So up here at the top of our class, underneath the string array that we have, the colors, let's create another array. I'm going to call this one actual colors. I can type. This is going to be actually, let's do this. We'll define it. So what this is telling, whoops, what this is telling the compiler is this is an array of UI color objects. And we can go ahead and start defining it right away on the fly. This needs to align with what we have above. So we'll start with red, and I suck at typing. Color dot red, UI color dot green. We have blue and yellow. Purple. And an orange and gray. All right. All right. So I'll give you a minute to get those typed in.
Why don't you ever use fuchsia?
Does it have a fuchsia?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Mauve?
I doubt it. It's got the primaries, and that's about it. It's Apple. We're lucky we got the primary colors.
We don't like the green or
Yeah, that you may want to play around with. You can do a color RGB for that guy, for the green. Where's the green? There he is. All right, so now that we have those defined, they're actually going to have an intended use. So what we need to do next is code in the selection, the delegate method where they select a value. So before with the date picker, we coded that up as a action, an IB action. But since we're the delegate for the picker control, in this scenario, we do that using one of the delegate methods. The did select row. And in the did select row, we can go ahead and have our fun and frolic. So in here, we're going to use the our friend that we used before with the ball drop. We can use the UI view dot animate with duration. And the one that we want is the top one will work fine. So the time interval we'll set to like 2 seconds. And the animation is to set that again. You do opening curly and enter, and then that creates the closure for you. And we'll say self.view.background color equals, and now we have this array of colors we can access handily. Actual colors. And again, they pass in the row. So we can just directly index it. And we're finding an exclamation point in there. Oh, self dot, it wants the self dot. And then I'm also going to say self.view.alpha, which is the transparency equals 1.0. So that's going to should have like a funny kind of like a quick fade effect on it. We'll see what happens. I might be wrong, especially in the simulator. Go ahead and run that. Go to my second one. Goes to blue and yellow, purple. All right. That seems to work correctly.
Sweet.
All right. So now we have two extremely useful pickers. We have a date picker and we have this guy. So that's about all I do want to do with the second view controller. And we're out of view controller, so we're going to need to add another one. So This is where we add another tab to our tab controller. I'll give you guys a minute to make sure everyone's ready to go before I continue on with this.
Working
No problem.
on it. Colors now. Might have to work on the duration. Otherwise, everything's working.
I'm going to have to probably give you guys... Shoot. I'm going to have to probably... I should have done that on break. Oh well. We'll see what happens here. I'll just talk to myself for a while and just kind of ignore me. All right. Is everyone ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to add another tab. So to do that, if we bring out our sliding panel of happiness over here, we need to we're going to go up to the very top, and what we're going to do this time, I'm going to close my source code file so I get more room. I'm going to bring a view controller out here, plop them on the storyboard. So this is just like an orphaned view controller we have hanging around out here, at least for now. Now, to associate this guy with our tab bar controller, it's really easy. If you click on the tab bar controller over here and do the control drag trick and then have your destination be our new view controller, a dialog will pop up, and what we want to select is a relationship segue and view controllers. And then that creates this presenting segue relationship. So I remember before I mentioned this was a segue, which is the name of this thing. All right, so also it should have, and it did, add another tab bar item down here, cleverly called item. So I don't want to have that ugliness there though, so I'm going to select it and go up to our attributes inspector and try to find something from the system items that's appropriate. Featured, I think, is also a star. Yeah.
I used the book.
Bookmarks? Yeah, that'll work. That's kind of a nice one. All right.
Do we need to name it, or does it matter?
No, don't need, we will. I mean, the view controller itself, you're talking about?
The bar item.
Oh, the bar item? No. No, it does it automatically when you select a system icon. All right, so we have this orphaned view controller, not really orphaned anymore, it's part of the tab bar, but it has no identity. It's just a generic view controller. So the next thing we need to do is create a class to associate with it. So with that guy out here, I'm going to come over to my file view, select the Pickin' and Grinnin' folder, and right click and go new file. And we're going to add a Cocoa Touch class. And we will, this is going to be a UI view controller, and we'll call this guy the slots view controller. We do not want to create a zip file because we basically did that already on the storyboard. And go next and create. That creates this code file for us. So I'm going to go back into the storyboard file now. And with our new view controller selected up here, I'm going to go over to the identity inspector, which is the third one over to the right. And up here is a custom class section. I want to change that from a generic view controller to be our slots view controller. And by doing that, that tells Xcode that our slots view controller, which is the class we created, is the code that goes along with this view controller.
Where did you find the slots?
You clicked on the first, which one you clicked
You can just start
Yeah, you can start typing too, that'll bring it up. But if you select the view controller over here and then just go to the class, it should come up in the drop down. But like Isaiah said, you can just start typing.
Mine's not coming up at all. Okay, it's
You guys definitely screwed something up. Okay, just kidding.
definitely.
All right, so do you have the slots view controller code file created?
Yes.
All right.
We're gonna click on the top. There you go.
Yes.
And it is derived from UI view controller?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
then in the storyboard,
Main storyboard.
make sure that your view controller guy over here is selected, so you have the blue rectangle on the.
That's the issue, I think.
Yep. Same here.
Slot view controller.
Yep, that's the guy. Okay, so I'm gonna then create a picker view like we did before. Go down to find the picker view. Drag that guy over. Drop him on there. We will again, I'm gonna slide these other view controllers out of the way for now. Need to create a variable for that as well. So I'm going to bring up my assistant editor and then do a control drag from the new picker view. Create a variable for him. Call him PV slots. Yep, that's an outlet. That's the first step, and then we're also going to need to set up our delegate and data source again. So again, to do that, I slide out my right-hand panel and then select the picker view in it. Go to the outlet inspector, which is the farthest one to the right. And up there should be the data source and delegate. So with the data source, I'm going to click on that circle and drag them over to the slots view controller in my storyboard scene. And then come back in.
Slots view controller?
Yep. Drag it and drop it on the slots view controller, set up the data source and the delegate.
Mine messed up.
Yours is set up. Okay. I'm gonna dismiss that guy. Then the last thing, as far as wiring up goes, need to set the UIPickerView data source and UIPickerView delegate for the view controller. And then it wants you to implement the methods, but doesn't tell you what they are. So first one is going to be the number of components in PickerView. And I'll slow down a little bit because I know I'm starting to speed up.
The same thing we did for the other one, right?
Yep, this is the same thing we did for that, except for this one, we're going to use 3 for our number of components. We're going to have 3 columns. Pardon?
We get a number of rows again too.
We are going to do a number of rows again also. I have to think this through because I'm missing a piece, a component that you guys are going to need. I mean, I'm not missing it, but I got to get it to you. All right, yeah, so let's do that one too. Number of rows and components. Right now I can just return 0. Now for this, because this is a slot machine, we're going to actually implement a different function. Before we did title for row. This time we're going to do view for row. So the view for row is kind of a cool function because it allows you to customize it. It doesn't have to be a text label. It can be any UI view because it's saying we're using view up here, one of the parameters. That can be basically any UI view derivative, including just a UI view. So kind of a handy function. So what we're going to use here is we're going to return an image that represents one of the slot machine entries. All right. I just coded in a empty constructor just to satisfy the compiler. And let's see. We're going to need, actually, number of rows component. All right, we're going to hold off on that for right now. Up here, underneath our outlet, we're going to create this guy, an array of strings. And in our array, we're going to have bananas, nope.
Laws? What?
All right, time to stop recording. Big win. This is the name of actual files. So this is the part I said I need to get to you that I haven't yet. I forgot to post it to Blackboard, but we're kind of. It's actually an image. It's tied in with the bra. Anyway, I got it. I'm recording this. Getting out of hand. All right, lemon, orange. We have a plum. The number is 7. And a watermelon. So these are all images, which I haven't provided you yet. So this is probably just about as far as we're going to get. I don't think there's anything else we can do yet. We can, yeah, we can. We're going to have to code in the row height because we got to make sure there's adequate room for these images. Row height for component. These images are all around 100, 110 pixels, so I'm just going to say 100, 0. And then in the view did load, another thing I'm going to do is set the self.view.background color to be red. This baby's going to be bright and flashy. All right, so yeah, it's going to take.
Constraints on the picker.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Can you go down to that bottom, quick? If we set the color in the attributes thing.
You can do it there too. Yep.
Does that matter?
No.
Okay, because I gave it a background color too.
Yeah. No, that's no problem.
The view.
Yeah, that's no problem. All right. So the last thing that I was going to do was give you guys these image files that actually look like slot machine images, and then we could code it up, wire it up, so that we would randomize them and stuff. But unfortunately, I forgot to post them to Blackboard, so I can either do that. It's going to take me a few minutes to do that. I can do it as quickly as possible. Where did I put those guys?
I think.
Unless it's a typo that others can just-
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have this here in a minute.
It's wrong. He sends himself. He sends emails to the third person. It'll be a big answer. It's like, oh. It's the same how many files is done.
He had something.
Tell me the initials.
I gotta update my security questions. God.
So I just.
Why?
No, there's a little confusing.
Because that, expects us to.
I almost regret sitting next to you.
You would be so hard.
Yeah, then you catch, or help me catch up on the stuff, because, you know.
Because usually I'm seeing that, but he's still trying things like this.
I got like 8 questions you gotta answer.
Yeah, because Flash Gordon was there.
He types about the regular speed of the normal person.
You do realize.
I don't think he types just. I have no problem. I do type fast. You type fast to me like oh my god, so that's. Anyways, the guy that said here, oh my god, he types so fast. He's like, just like
Who's the
40
idiot
words.
that thought of this? All right.
How do you type 40 words? It's like pulling back.
And it will not let me get past this. It won't let me just go to this. It's updating my security questions. Come on, you guys. Finally, okay, Blackboard. Okay, the name of this file is assets for slot machine.
You putting in Blackboard, you said?
Yeah, I put it on Blackboard.
To the blackboard.
Mr. Machine. I said Mr. Machine, not Mr. Clean.
I heard Mr.
I got it.
Okay, I think. Okay, should be uploaded to Blackboard. called Assets for Slot Machine.
What'd you put it under? Yeah.
It's just should be just hanging out there in lesson plans or something. I'm gonna need to download it myself.
Okay, so.
Okay, so I think download, but now what?
Hang on, I gotta get it too. So,
Copy down items.
okay, so once you have it downloaded,
Yep.
take
Go in
it.
the assets.
Hold on. Click on Show in Finder. Yeah, that's the Assets for Slot. Go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and go Show in Finder. It'll show you where it's at, and just leave that selected. And then I'm going to go back to Xcode. And in Xcode, I'm going to come up to my main project folder and do a new group. And I'm going to name this artwork. Trust me, I didn't make these, so although I did kind of have to pirate them. Now with these slots, with that selected, go ahead and copy it. So right click and go copy slots.zip and go to wherever you have your project. So let's see, this is,
Do we have to open
Mine
it?
Mine's not zipped.
Mine isn't either.
it's not zipped.
Oh, mine's zipped.
Mine wasn't.
Like, when I downloaded it, must have automatically.
So do you want it zip
What-
format?
Well, no, what do you have? What does it show?
We've got the images, the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 images.
It just has a group of 9 images? That's weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's in a folder called slots.
Oh, okay. It must have decompressed them automatically then.
Yeah, slots.
That's fine. So just select all of the images that are in there.
Folder and that's it.
I have to actually move my zip
Like, I
folder.
guess it doesn't say .zip.
Do you have the original file that it downloaded to?
But you just want all of
No,
those
I
in
didn't
that.
unzip it. It automatically-
Yeah. So take them, and then ultimately they need to end up in your project folder. The picking and grinning. So there's 2 levels of picking and grinning.
Do we want to create folder references and create groups?
Hold on a second. I got to get to. So for those who have a zip folder,
Yeah.
you paste the slots in there, and then open that up.
So I'm in the file folder.
So then that'll create the slots folder that everyone else has with the images in it. Now with all the images in there, you select all of them.
So you go on the second level of click and grin, you said, right?
Yep.
And then just paste.
Well, no, you want to open them up. So with them all selected, what you want to do is drag them into your artwork folder that you created in Xcode. And then you want to make sure the copy items if needed is checked, create groups is selected, and the target is set to your project. And then click finish.
So I pasted the item.
Copy
And
items.
now I need to create groups.
Yep.
Create groups.
Do not create references or whatever that other option is. Make sure you select create groups.
So slots is now in there. I'll take those. Take all of them and drag them back to our work then.
So we have to create a folder of slots.
And copy items to picking and grinning. Finished. Oh, no, mine did not drag into the outlook. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay. Do you want all your stuff? Open your slots. Got all your stuff there. Okay, I'll drag all, okay, then you're gonna drag that all. I'll let you know how to get it. Move on this a little bit. integrate all that into the artwork. There you go, you drop it, and then finish.
That's a cute banana.
Again, I didn't make them. In fact, some of them have watermarks on them, so definitely don't. Yeah, it's got a Shutterstock little watermark. So these are definitely not for reuse. I just pirate them for class purposes. But anyway, yeah, these are actual.
That's a poor plum.
And that's on the recording.
You betcha. I said do not reuse them. All right. So anyway, we got all these images, but we're at 5 after 8, and we got a pretty good chunk of coding to do to make anything useful out of it. So at this point, we're gonna call it a wrap for tonight, and then at least we have that stuff set up, and then next week we can just continue on implementing them and get that set up. All right. So yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it so you spin them, and then they randomly select the slot images, and it'll rotate, slow down, stop, and then announce whether or not you'll have a big like thing that ultimately I'd like to have confetti coming down if you win and stuff like that. But a lot of hoopla, but we'll get to it.